is the Rebel Author Podcast, where we talk about books, business, and occasionally bad words. Hello, Rebels, and welcome to episode 276 of the Rebel Author Podcast. Today, I'm talking to Erin Wright all about why wide and diversifying your book distribution. First, to some comments from the previous episodes. So over Christmas, we just had Matt comment, and Matt said on Russell's episode, "This has to be the best, simplest, easiest to understand explanation of Substack that I've ever heard, and will seriously make me investigate it with more purpose. It's another avenue of what you and Joanna Penn always talk about with multiple streams of income." And on Petra's episode, Matt said, "I love your Christmas intro." He continues to say, "I'm curious if you were considering the bonus smutalogs when you set up the tiers, why you didn't write them at the same time as the book. I'd have a major panic attack if I was promising something I hadn't created." So yes, when we set up the tiers, we knew that I was going to write bonus smutalogs. I have now written bonus smutalogs for pretty much everything. So I kind of know what I'm doing. I kind of know that I can do them. It's only one sex scene, so it's not a big deal. Most of them are less than 4,000 words, and it doesn't necessarily need as strict of a beginning, middle and end as a short story would. Don't get me wrong, there is still a scene feel, like, so there is a conclusion, but for whatever reason, like, who knows? I just really enjoy writing smut scenes, so I don't find it too difficult. The thing that I find the most difficult with the smutalogs is where to locate them and the type of sex scene, because I think in the Kingdom of Immortal Lovers trilogy there were 28 sex scenes, or 35, I can't remember. I think it was maybe 28, I think it was 28. And then there were a whole bunch, I think it was 5, 7 and 9 in the Girl Games. So when you've written that many scenes, it's like, how do you not repeat yourself? What locations are new and interesting? So those are, generally speaking, the hardest things for me to work out, but they don't take me very long. I write both of them usually in a day, so yeah, I'm not too worried. What I would be worried about is if I had promised a novella and I hadn't done that. That would worry me. But, like a 4,000 word sex scene is fine. Okay, so in personal news and updates then, it is Saturday the 4th of January. As I record this, I'm going back to official work on Monday. But I am spending this weekend kind of preparing, clearing my inbox, doing all the millions of house chores and getting ready for school chores and boring ordering food. God, why is adulting so fucking shit? I hate this stuff. I really hate it. But anyway, I'm delightfully positive. I didn't have as restful of a Christmas as I think I probably needed and wanted and probably should have had. But I do feel a bit rested. A bit. Let's go with that. I am not coming into this year as energized as I was hoping. I am extremely excited for this year and everything that is going on. But I think I'm going to have to be really careful with my energy. I'm going to have to say no to a lot more things than I thought I was going to say. I think I'm going to have to focus on fitness and health and doing less in a day. God, who am I? Who am I? Who even am I? Do you even recognize me? Is this really Sasha? No, I'm serious. I need to be careful this year, because I think if I'm not careful, I think I probably will slip into burnout. So it's going to be a lot of no from me this year. And we all know that I'm not very good at saying no. So anyway, that's fun to start my year. The big projects that are going on are shockingly exciting. I am going to be working on Architecty. I was actually hoping to have an outline before Christmas, and I just kind of crashed and burnt before Christmas and wasn't able to do that. So that is going to be my primary piece of work, is outlining that story and getting that written as fast as humanly possible. There is a secret project, a novella that I would like to do in the first couple of months of this year, but it really kind of depends on the progress of Architecty. The Kickstarter for the Girl Games Special Editions, which, holy fucking shit, they are a level up, will be launching on the 4th of March. So I am exceptionally excited for that. And then the other major project that I'm working on is something that I'm not going to say too much about at the moment, but essentially, having run the numbers, it no longer makes sense for me to be doing print on demand. So I am going to be looking at offset print runs, which is much more like traditional publishers. Now, I could go into lots of detail about this, the ins and outs, the lessons and the pitfalls that we've already discovered, but I'm not going to, because I don't want to give out any information before we actually have a system and process in place, because I think it would be naive of me to do that. We may fall flat on our faces, and this, might not work out. So that is something potentially you can look forward to at my annual lessons learned episode. Hopefully by then I will have got something in place and sorted that out, and I will be able to talk about it then. So I think that's all I'm going to say on the front of what I have been doing. I hope you all had wonderful Christmases, Happy New Year's, and all of that good stuff. Okay, the Rebel of the Week this week is Richard. Richard says, I was working as a software developer for a company that grew quickly. They now had a server room, a repurposed storage area with 2 PCs in it. Rather frequently, I would walk past this room and the door would be open and the PCs logged in. Several times I mentioned to the IT admin that this was insecure. The whole point of having a server room was to keep the servers away from prying eyes and hands. Nothing changed. The door would still be open and the PCs vulnerable. Finally, I decided that a point would have to be made. So I went to that server. I brought up MS Paint. And I drew a brick wall. Then I spray painted Kilroy Was Here on it. I set that masterpiece as a desktop wallpaper and walked away. Shortly after, a friend came up to me. The technical director had asked him to tell me that if it was ever discovered who messed with the server, they would be fired. Of course they knew who'd done it. Nobody else was told. The point had been made, and so long as I didn't brag about it, it would be quietly forgotten. What I want to know, though, is did they make the server room more secure? I tell you, this is a rebellion that properly tickled me. It made me giggle. So thank you very much, Richard. If you would like to be a Rebel of the Week, please do send in your stories. It can be any kind of rebellion, something big, something small, or something in between. It could be a pet rebel, a sister rebel, a brother rebel, a sibling, an aunt, a cousin, a whoever rebel. You can email your story to Becca over on rebelauthorpodcast@gmail.com. Huge welcome and thank you to Erin Lynn Austin and Martha Knox. And of course, a giant thank you to all of my existing patrons. If you would like to support the show and get early access to all of the episodes, as well as bonus content like joining us for our water cooler sessions, which we are going to have a new name for very soon. And our first session is going to be tomorrow, if you're listening to this in real time. So on Thursday, the 9th of January at 3 p.m. British time, then you can from as little as $2 a month by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. This episode is sponsored by Kobo Writing Life, Kobo's free, fast and easy self-publishing platform. KWL was built by authors for authors, and their team of dedicated book lovers is always working hard to help you reach new readers around the world. One way to reach a new audience on Kobo is through their subscription reading service, Kobo Plus. This program has been a great success and is now available to readers in Canada, Belgium, the Netherlands, Portugal, France, Italy, Australia, and New Zealand. The great thing about Kobo Plus for authors is that it reaches an entirely new audience who may be trying digital reading for the first time. Kobo Writing Life team know how important it is that authors retain control of their books, and as such, exclusivity isn't required. Do you want to try out a book in Kobo Plus, Canada, but not in the Netherlands? You can do that. Simply select the areas you want to be included in the rights and distribution section of your book. If you're choosing to publish widely as an author, Kobo encourage you to make your books available to as many readers as possible. And with Kobo Plus, it's a great way to gain and build an audience. Don't want to opt your books in one by one? The KWL team can bulk opt in your books if you email them at writinglife@kobo.com. If you want to learn more about KWL and Kobo Plus, check out the Kobo Writing Life podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts, and find them on social. Create your free account today at kobo.com/writing life. That's it from me this week. Let's get on with the episode. Hello and welcome to the Rebel Author podcast. Today I'm joined by Erin Wright. USA Today bestselling author Erin Wright has worked every job under the sun, including library director, barista, teacher, website designer, and ranch hand helping brand cattle before settling into the career she's always dreamed about, author. She still loves coffee, doesn't love the smell of cow flesh burning, and is currently living out her own love story in a tiny rural town in Idaho. Hello and welcome.
Hello. That was probably the best reading of my bio ever. I loved all of the I just love listening to it. I think it's your accent, honestly.
It's anyway. Definitely the accent. I find Americans tend to love a good British accent, and the posher the accent, the more they love it as well.
It's true. It's true.
I have to ask about the cow branding. Like, that is such a niche job. How did
you
that
obviously
happen?
have not been to Idaho because it's not that niche of a job in Idaho.
Okay, so does it hurt the cows?
Yeah, so cows have super thick hides.
Okay,
they
right,
don't have a lot
leather.
of nerve endings. Right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. They don't have a lot of nerve endings in them. So I don't imagine that it feels like amazing, but it's not anywhere vaguely close to if you or I were to be branded, right?
Okay.
Because of their anyway.
So what does it smell of?
Burning flesh. It's awful. It's awful.
Is it like burning hair as well? Because they have
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No,
so
I can't stand that.
Yeah, they have a really short hair, obviously. It's not a long, luscious, flowing locks, unless it's a Scottish Highlander. But anyway, so yeah, you got the burning hair, the burning flesh. And usually at the same time, you're also giving them injections. So you're giving them vaccines and stuff. And then you're also, the boys, you are cutting off their fun parts and neutering them at the same time. So
did you do that?
I actually helped grab the cows and hold them down so that the people who knew what they were doing would be able to do their work.
Wow.
So I did not actually cut or brand anything. I just was the muscle behind
the cowboy romance is making a little bit more sense.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, it's making a lot more sense now. And on that note, would you like to tell everyone a little bit more about you? What's your journey? How did you get here?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I do write cowboy romance, which yes, should start making a whole lot of sense. I have all of my books are actually in the same world. It's called Long Valley, and it is a real place here in Idaho. It's not where I live at. I live in an ugly part of Idaho, but it's in a pretty part of Idaho. And so it's my favorite place in the world to go on vacation. So when I started writing, I thought if I've set all of my books up in this place that I love to go on vacation, then every time I write it will be like going on a vacation. That is not at all how this works. Anyway, but yeah, I have cowboys, and then I have a firefighter series, and I have a musician series, and and I'm starting a serviceman series, so military. But it's all in the same world, so all the characters walk in between all of them. I have always loved writing. I'm one of those kids, grew up writing, winning writing contests, awful, because I was a kid. So really bad writing, but better than my my co-students. So there was that. But I didn't think that you could actually make money from being an author. Because back then you really couldn't, right? Not really. So I went out and got real jobs. And I was in the library world for 7 years. And just loved being around books. That was fantastic. And then I started going to school to get my degree in teaching while also teaching. They gave me a temporary certificate that you can do here in Idaho. If there aren't enough teachers, then they can just basically pull people in off the street and be like, you get to be a teacher, and we'll just give you like a special certificate, so that you can teach while you're going to school to become an official teacher. And so I was doing that. And I also found, when I wandering around on the internet, I found a group called Dirty Discourse. So if anybody has been around for a long time, they may have heard of Dirty Discourse. I stumbled upon them on accident. And obviously I couldn't be an author because I'm not that cool, right? Like the heavens have to open up and the angels sing and like bop you on the head, and now you get to be an author. And nobody had done that for me. But I could be around super cool people who had had that happen to them, and bask in their glory. That is the amazingness of being able to be an author. And so I started hanging around with all these people, and then I started proofreading for them, because an edit, just like help you find all the missed commas and misspelled words and whatever. Because I'm rather, retentive about that. Um, and then I sort of got talked into ghost writing a specific book. And I thought, well, okay, under these certain specific circumstances, I can write this particular book, but I really can't write any more books other than that, because I'm not that cool. And then I actually ended up being a trilogy, and I wrote all three books. And then after it was done, I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I mean, I'm still not really an author because I just ghost wrote those books. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really count, right? And then the guy wanted me to write more books for him. And my husband is like, Erin, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm like, oh, I love you too. You're the best.
That's like the best, worst support ever.
Right? He knows me really well. And he's like, why are you writing all of these books for these other people when you could be writing books for yourself and making all the money? Right? Because this was back in 2015. It was very much gold rush days. And this guy was making buco bucks, and I was, I had made a pittance in comparison. And he's like, why aren't you just writing for yourself? And I'm like, because I'm not that cool. And he's like, yes, you are. You can do this. So, yeah, so I've written 16 books total, including my newsletter magnet, in the Long Valley world at this point. So nobody actually came down and bopped me on the head, and there were no choirs of angels singing either. I feel really let down, but somehow I managed to still be an author anyway.
And I have to say, you're definitely cool enough to be an author. So, Um,
I
so
appreciate that.
no, I mean you are. You like made being wide cool. So you have to now accept that you are cool. And that is what we're here to talk about. Like, I
Yes.
feel like when we talk about wide, air quotes, that there's always been one definition of wide, but I feel like the popularized definition of wide has changed over the years. So I wonder if you could tell me what your definition of wide is. Has your definition changed over the years? Yeah, like I feel like we're getting wider and wider with wide, but maybe that's just because there's more education on what is wide, or is it true that we are getting wider because of technology? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So my own definition of wide is if somebody just says, yeah, I'm wide, I am assuming that they are talking about ebooks, right? So if they are meaning that I am wide with my audiobooks, I am wide with my print, they're usually they're tacking that part on. But in my brain, if somebody just says I am a wide author, then they are talking that their books are not enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, and they are published on more than just one platform, i.e., Amazon. Um, there are people who are like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm totally white," and then I find out that they mean that they uploaded their print books to Ingram Spark, and I'm like, That's nice. That's not what
That's
we're talking about here, peoples.
That's so funny because I am also on one of the Ally podcasts, and so I'm on the Q&A podcast, and somebody literally wrote in a question about being wide and saying I've now uploaded my book to Ingram, and I was like, no, that's not what wide means.
Yes, but I will say since I started, so I didn't publish books under my own name until 2016. And when I started, selling direct was something that like was extraordinarily fringe, right? Um, uh, you like super. I can't even think of anybody who was doing it at that point. I'm sure there was probably one person who was selling direct off their own site, but there wasn't really a good way of managing all of it. It was something that was talked about in the author world, a lot of like how do we solve this issue of getting people to come to our site to trust buying directly from us, blah 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 blah. We have now made it, I don't know if I would say standard, but it is very accepted and very normal to sell off your own site. And so I feel like that's a big place where that has changed from when I first started. Because when I first started, it was to be wide meant that you published on Amazon, Kobo, Google Play, Apple, Barnes and Noble. And you got your books into libraries using a distributor like Draft to Digital or something. And that was it, right? And then serial apps came along and really got huge. And so Kiss and Radish, right? And all of these, iReader, all of these platforms came in, and selling direct started being a really big thing. And people are now making big bucks selling direct, that just was not possible before. Kickstarter, now you are putting your, these special print versions up on Kickstarter, and you're giving the ebook can be part of it, like they can pay extra or buy this version and we'll throw in the ebook for free, stuff like that. All of these things you really can't do very well if you are locked in on Amazon. I think about being in Kindle Unlimited and being exclusive to Amazon as the author version of being stuck in a straitjacket, truly, because you have no flexibility. You have almost no. You're completely dependent upon one platform. You have to play by their rules. What they say is the only thing that matters, because it's not like you're going to be able to negotiate a better deal with them or a different deal with them. They set down the rules. You live by those rules. And those rules are you're not selling it off your site. You're not even giving it away for free. You're not getting it into libraries. You're not, I mean, the list of the nots is endless. The list of the what you're actually doing is very, very short.
Do
You're
you
publishing on Amazon.
do you think there are any benefits to KU? So I'm gonna give you context to that. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
started my Ruby pen name in 2023. And I very specifically wrote, I looked at the market and I looked at where are all the Sapphic books, and the indie authors, they were all in KU. So I was like,
Mhm.
right, I'm going to go onto KU and I'm going to read some KU books and I'm going to write a series for KU. But I have always been wide. So it did not sit very well with me at all, having to be in KU. So I wrote my second series and very intentionally put it wide because I'm much more comfortable being wide. But I still funnel lots of people through KU and into my wide series. And I only find kind of two benefits, because the funny thing is, even though I have that series in KU, I still earn more from my wide series. But the one caveat to that is the rank is so much higher. I can have like one of my books at under 5,000 in the store, the KU one, and another one at like 20,000. And the one that's at 20,000 still earns more. But because of the rank, I see a lot more exposure, and I funnel because they're all like normal romance, they're all interconnected, all in the same universe. I still funnel people in. So, and the other thing is I feel like KU is still an income stream. It's not an income stream I particularly like, but it is still an income stream. So I am keeping that series in KU because I'm like, well, I want a finger in that pie as well as all the other pies. So I don't know, like, do you feel like it has a place? Like, I generally speaking do everything else. I've got I mean, I make 5 figures a month on Shopify. So I like my Shopify makes money, my Kickstarters make money. I generally speaking prefer being wide. And I every so often, like probably every month, I'm like, should I pull it? Should I pull it? Should I pull it? So, I'm living in this constant, like, I want to pull it, but like, oh. So yeah, talk to me about that.
So there are basically the benefits that come from being in KU is exactly what you mentioned. Amazon is very blunt about it, that you get better exposure, you show up higher in search results, your ranking is higher, you show up in more carousels when you're in KU. So there can be that benefit that comes from being in KU. If there were no benefits for being in KU, nobody would be in KU, right? There has to be benefits. For me, what I'm always looking at is weighing the pros and the cons, right? Of being wide versus being in KU. Obviously, I weighed those pros and cons a long time ago and decided that being wide was the way to go. I did start out in KU. I don't know that everybody knows that. But when I first started publishing, every single author who I knew was in KU. I did not know anybody who was wide. And they very much the idea was very much the idea back then was that if you were wide, you were an idiot. Um, because you made no money wide. And so I wanted to make money. So I was going to be in KU. And it wasn't until I found out that my books couldn't be in libraries. As a former librarian, I was like, I'm sorry, what? I mean, I understand not being on other platforms, right? You can't be on Apple, you can be in Barnes and Noble. I get that, but what do you mean I can't be in libraries? Um, I didn't understand that from the beginning. And so as soon as I realized that, I started researching to find out how to go wide, and I went wide. Again, not knowing a single person at that point who was wide, so I was figuring out all of it like from the ground up, very much just sort of um, feeling my way through the dark, which is why I ended up starting my Fifth Wing because I want to be able to help more people make the transition without being completely lost like I had been. Um, but back to your question, are there benefits for being in KU? Um, yes. What you are finding where you are getting people into your world using a KU series and then getting them to switch over to a wide series and continue reading there.
Well,
Is
let's
that what you're
so
saying?
well, when I started, that's what was happening. But what I found is most of my friends who were in KU and who I would say were or are KU authors would find that between 70 and 80% of their income came from KU. Even on my heaviest KU months, it was only ever 30%. On my
Mhm.
best wide months, it's down at like 11%. So that's why I've always really struggled with staying in KU. I kind of feel like I want the opportunity for KU readers to find it because I know there are so many Sapphic authors who have capitalized on that audience, but for whatever reason, I just haven't seemed to be able to like get in. And I think probably the big reason for that is because I use TikTok. So like a huge quantity of my income comes from print. And so because of that, like I just think that I am never going to see the huge money from KU anyway. So yeah, it's why it's becoming increasingly difficult to keep that series in KU. I actually think I might swap. I might put the new one in temporarily just because I might do storyteller, and then pull that one out like and swap. And then maybe probably be everything wide after Kindle Storyteller's over, I think. But anyway, that's just the context.
There are people who only read in books that are in KU, right? They check mark that box and say only show me KU books. They pay a monthly fee and they're not going to do anything else. Um, Typically, it is very difficult to get those readers to switch over and buy the wide books. because they are like, why would I? I get all of these books for free. Thank you very much. Yeah, you were a great read. You were a great author, whatever. Let me know when this book comes into KU so I can read it. But until then, I'm not. So a lot of authors have found that having one series in KU means that that one series is read by KU authors, but the switchover from that to the rest of their catalog doesn't typically go very well, because KU readers, something that I, I hear from a lot of authors, and which I found myself, KU readers are not loyal. You are just one of the options in the buffet line. And so if you stop being an option in the buffet line, they're definitely not going to pay extra for that. They're just like, well, you don't exist here anymore. Too bad.
And actually, I think you're confirming to me why I haven't made it in KU, because I write in such a small niche that the supply demand is completely the wrong way round, right? Most of KU is the very, very popular genres where there's a massive supply and a massive demand. So they're kind of cancelling each other out. Whereas because I write lesbian romantasy and for adults, because YA romantasy is owned by Trad,
Right.
there's not enough supply for the demand. So I think that's probably why I've been able to pull people, and probably why you're convincing me that I do need to pull. I just, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so what I have found typically is when somebody tries to do what you're doing, where they have one series in KU and they have the rest of the series wide, rather than getting the best of all the worlds, they end up with a car boat. That it's neither good at being a car nor is it good at being a boat, right? You by like, oh, I'm going to use this as my loss leader to pull in KU readers, and then I'll get them to read my wide series. What ends up happening is your wide readers don't get to read these books. They don't get access to those books. And so you're telling those readers you don't matter as much because I am going to put this in a platform in an area that you don't have access to, which wide readers don't tend to take all that well, right? So you're pissing off your wide readers, and you're pissing off your KU readers because they get through that one series and they're like, yes, great, love this series. Hmm, everything else is not in KU. I guess I'll come back and see if it's in KU later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can, yeah, I think I struck very lucky with what happened. Probably that luck will run out at some point, so I will just have to cut my losses and push that series wide, especially when it's like, 11% of the income. I'm like, it's a risk that I can take. The thing that I
Mhm.
find the most interesting is when I have a viral TikTok. So, like, for example, a viral TikTok with one of the books in KU might earn £600 in a day, but like a viral TikTok on one of the wide books will make £1,500, and it's just incomparable. You cannot compare the earnings. I mean, yeah, that's more than double. So okay,
Well, and that's sorry, just to
no, no,
put that out there is that it's really interesting the number of authors that I have talked to who have pretty different experiences when they choose to go wide. Some authors, when they choose to go wide, find that their income actually goes up because you make so little with page reads versus if somebody purchases the book, that by no longer allowing someone to just read it for pennies, you're saying in order to read this, you have to pay full price for it. And authors have found that they actually make more money when they go wide than they were making in KU. Um,
so
it
uh,
sounds like you'd be in that
I
realm.
am. I am definitely in that realm. What I will say though, so I've got two experiences with wide. I've got my non-fiction experience and my fiction experience. So my non-fiction was wide and barely made anything wide. hardly like pennies is what I was making. And it didn't seem to matter kind of what I did. It just never really took on those platforms. With the fiction, I don't know if it's that the audience reads wide or if it's just that my audience is so large, I have now captured people that are wide. Do you know what I mean? Like I've reached further than the non-fiction did, because the more the audience grows, the more I earn wide, if that makes sense. And I think. Yeah, I think because I'm also doing things like Kickstarter, the price per customer is so much higher. You just can't compete. So yeah, I find it very, very interesting because it's definitely my experience that I earn. I mean, it's frustrating. So one of my big goals next year is to get my Shopify to rival my Amazon. Like even though I'm earning like five figures on Shopify, I'm still Amazon still out earns. Like one of my goals is to have them on par or to have my Shopify like out earn it. But I've got to
Right.
really work my ass off to get there. But that's fine. I love a competition. So let's talk about. How we can maximize our strategy. So one of the things I mentioned there was that I really struggled when I had nonfiction to find people on these other platforms. So what are some of the
Mhm.
marketing things we can do to find readers on wider platforms?
Yeah. So just to address the nonfiction part for a moment. Honestly, nonfiction and wide platforms is not s- the wide platforms really specialize in and focus on fiction. And so I'm not surprised at all to hear that your nonfiction struggled on wide platforms. Um, I would have been surprised if you told me otherwise, because it's just not where the wide platforms, that's not what their promotions are on. That's not really where their readership is at. Their readers are very hardcore fiction. The times that it works when to have nonfiction wide is if you are using it as a springboard to be found by, or use it as like a marketing tool or something to do um, presentations at conferences and things like that. Then it's like the book and the income from the book is not really the point. The point is to be found in order to do conference presentations and make speaker fees, right? So that can be a really good reason to be wide with your nonfiction, if that is what your goal is. But in terms of actual income from the ebook sales, why platforms are going to struggle to compete with KO. That's just the way it is. Because Amazon has had such a long history of all of these nonfiction books of, how to whatever, be positive in 30 days or less and change your life and right, like all of those sorts of things. Like that is just an Amazon thing. Um, that whole genre of books. And so that tends to be where the readers who are looking for those kinds of books, that's where they're congregating. So anyway, okay. I just want to give you my thoughts on nonfiction stuff, just so you kind of had my thoughts there. Um, okay, so how do you find readers on wide platforms? Uh, the number one thing is to have a permafree. Um, Permafrees have stopped being nearly as effective on Amazon, but is still very effective on the wide platforms.
Yeah, I have a weirdly, okay, so I also have a young adult series that never really sold, like never sold. But also because it's the first thing that I wrote. But I have a permafree for that book one. And even though like none of the platforms sell, Google Play still makes like 100 quid a month. Like 100 quid a month. And I'm like, what the who is reading this series? But it does. It's
Mhm.
the only platform that series sells on. So I just leave it there because I'm like, oh well, I'll take the 100 quid a month.
Right. I would actually be really interested in sitting and chatting with you on how to optimize your Google Play. I actually teach an entire class just on Google Play
Oh
because it
wow.
is so different. Um, from the other platforms in terms of how it operates that I'm thinking that if you were to spend some time optimizing your metadata on Google Play, you would make even more. So anyway, okay, so now I'm like, oh, I bet I could help you, and I love to help people. So so then my little woo, this would be awesome. Okay, what the hell were we talking about?
We were talking about marketing, and you mentioned permafreeze and
Oh,
how, yeah, they don't really
permafreeze.
work on
Yes.
Amazon.
Yes, yes. Okay. So many, many moons ago, if anybody's been around this long, you may remember that he was a strategy on Amazon to make a book free, hit the top of the charts, flip it back to paid, and then ride your rankings down because it used to be that your free downloads counted towards your paid ranking.
Mm.
And a long time ago, Amazon quit doing that. And now, the longer that your book is free, all of the downloads, everything that's happening on that free book, as soon as it switches back to paid, everything that happened while it was free is disregarded. And so it doesn't convert into paid at all. And so all it does is look and go, wow, this book has been free for 6 months. The Amazon algorithms now see that your book did nothing for 6 months because in the paid world, it's done nothing, right? And so you switch it back to paid and it's just like, right? It's not going anywhere. It's not doing anything. Um, the wide platforms still work the way that Amazon used to work, where free downloads count internally towards your overall ranking. And they count less, right? They don't count one free download for one paid download. That isn't the way it works, but they definitely still count. And so if you were just as a thought, if you were to put a book free, get a BookBub, get shit tons of downloads, switch it back to paid, you will end up in the top of the paid stores because you have all of these downloads that happened and all of those are converting towards your paid ranking. So that's something that people have had good success with. But anyway, so the bottom line is that the wide platforms still very much reward free books. People are constantly asking, how do I make money? How do I get somebody to try my books if they aren't in Kindle Unlimited? How do I get people to take a chance on my books? And the answer is you put a free one out there. And people will try it, and the vast majority of people will not purchase, right? It is a numbers game. It is a percentage game. But the more that you are giving away for free, the more you are going to make income wise, because you're going to get that conversion over. And if you don't get any conversion over, then there's typically something happening with that series, that book, the back matter. I mean, I've done whole consultations just on that. Why is my perma-free not converting to paid sales? So
Mm. Oh, I find it so interesting. I'm making a wild assumption that you have a Shopify or something.
I actually only have PayHip and I'm switching over to WooCommerce right now. But just
Oh.
time wise, yes, time and I are not good friends because there's not enough of it.
But no,
So
but
anyway,
you have a transactional website is okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Do you have a free offering there?
I don't. I think I charge 99 cents for my perma-free on my website.
Okay, so I've done something slightly different. I've got exclusive stories on there, and they are like
Hmm.
bonus epilogues for the end of the series that people
Yes.
absolutely want. So
Mhm.
that is how I have found most of my success on there because people are like, they'll comment like, how do I get the little book? Like, and I'm like, I reply to the comment with a video. Let me show you. Like, here's my
Hmm.
website. So like that has
Yes.
really helped. really, really
Yes.
helped by having, and they're really tiny. It's like 3 chapters, and they're mostly just smart. But having that, and I take the hit on ranking, exposure, all the things that you get from Amazon. But also, I have built a huge Shopify from doing that, and it's totally been worth it. So yeah, that was just one little
Yes.
thing that
No,
my
so that's a
contribution to
news.
Wide.
Absolutely. That's a newsletter magnet, and or a Shopify direct sales magnet, right? But something that you're holding exclusive. You can only get this by going here.
Yes.
And there are people who struggle with the idea of, but can't I publish this on the other platforms because I want to make money? And it's like, no, no, hold it hot in your hot little hands and be like, this is mine until you come over here and you do what I want you to do. You don't get no touchy touchy. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. It was
Yes.
funnily enough a reader that gave me the idea because it started with my reader magnet, and she was
Mhm.
like, "But I want a physical copy," and I was like, "Huh. Well, I suppose I could do a physical copy." So you can still only get the ebook on the mailing list, but you can get the physical copy on the website. So there's still that kind of exclusivity things, and yeah, okay, it does
Yes.
hurt, but also I think I'm probably making a butt ton more money on Shopify because of it. So.
Exactly.
Um, okay,
Absolutely.
let's talk about people who are scared of kind of leaving KU. What advice do you give them to kind of fly off the cliff, for want of a better word, and kind of set themselves up best for success wide?
So I have talked to people who they're like, I just can't go wide. I can't afford it. This is where I'm making the majority of my income is from page reads. And I asked them, okay, so how much are you actually making per month? I need some actual numbers. And I find out that they're making like $100. I'm like, are you trying to tell me that you can't afford to lose $100? Well, I know, but it's actually like somebody's really buying it for, or they're really reading, and it's like that affirmation that they really are making somebody out there read their book, that they aren't willing to give that up. It isn't really the money as much. Now, I totally talked to a shit ton of people who it is money, right? And they are making big bucks in KU, and it is scary to go wide in terms of their finances. But a shockingly large number, at least it was shocking to me when I first started actually pushing back on this I can't afford it thing, was the number of people who aren't making jack diddly in KU, but they're just scared to do something different than what they've done before. And that's just terrifying to them. Amazon is there. People probably not like this comparison very much, but people have made the comparison that Kindle Unlimited is like an abusive boyfriend.
I knew I am a romance
Right.
writer. So in my head, I was like, she's going to say abusive boyfriend. She's going to say abusive boyfriend.
Yeah, I did. I went there. I
Do
did
you know?
that.
Do you know who else is an abusive boyfriend? Fucking
Mm.
TikTok. That's who else is. And I love
Mm.
TikTok. I will go back for that shit every single day because it's making me a butt ton of money. But at least I have my eyes open. Okay, I know what I'm doing there.
Yes, at least.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah. So there's just this like, but I know this. It's the devil I know, right? I know
Mm.
how Amazon works. Out there is scary. Um, so if you aren't currently making a lot of money and you're just worried because it's change and that's scary to you, um, understand that you can take it slow if you would like, if that helps. Some people it helps to just rip off the band-aid and you just go for it. Other people are like, I need to take very slow, methodical steps. Um, but truly the number of people who I've talked to who have gone wide and told me this is not nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. This is not nearly as difficult. This is not nearly as scary. I made it into a much bigger thing in my mind of what I thought it was going to be. And now that I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, this is totally doable, right? Like, why was I so freaked out about this?
Yeah.
Um, so the first thing I would say is just go to the right platforms and set up. account, excuse me, go to the right platforms and set up accounts. So that when you are ready to pull the plug, your accounts are already set up there. You've got your taxing information in there. You've got all of this stuff in there so that when you are ready to go, you don't have anything else holding you back. That typically is the first step that it helps people realize, oh, this isn't so bad. I'm just going to another website and I'm signing up for an account. I do that all the time. It's not that difficult. And then they're
Mm.
like, huh, well, I guess maybe let me try publishing a book. So I always say to put your worst selling book, your worst selling series on wide first, because you're going to screw up, you're going to make mistakes. Don't do that with the series that is your breadwinner and is how you're keeping the roof over your head, right? Uh, Make the mistakes on that series that has been out for forever and is making you no money, right? That's the one to play around with and make all the mistakes on and go, oh, I've put this up. This isn't so bad. I totally just published all of these books on this web platform, and it's easier to publish on than Amazon is. Honestly, Amazon is one of the more difficult platforms to publish on. Kobo is like drop dead simple, easy, right? Draft to digital is like stupid easy. Google Play is a pain in the ass. Apple, don't even get me started on Apple.
Oh my God.
But
Actually, I have another question about Apple.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have you, I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but Apple have basically sent an email out that's like, we're going to publish your information, like your phone number and your address. So
Mm-hmm.
like, and I make 4 figures a month on Apple, and I'm really quite like, I just run a test actually to pull books from Apple direct through D to, and put them through D2D. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know what else to do. But I'm going to lose like 10, I'm going to get literally hundreds of dollars a month because I'm having to
Mm-hmm.
go through D2D. Is this like, is there any other way around it? Like, is there anything you know?
So, yeah, I have been going back and forth with the peeps at Apple about this because I'm finding the same thing that you are. We're going to put your information out there. And I was like, are you at least going to like make it so that only, I don't know, publishers can find it or whatever? And the last email I got back from Apple was like, no, it's going to be publicly available. Like any Joe Schmo off the street is going to be able to look at this. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, what? Are you fucking with me right now? This is insanity. So,
They're
so
going to
I haven't,
hemorrhage clients.
yes, yes. So I have not, we're still exchanging emails. Maybe there is some way around this that I am not aware of yet. I'm not willing to pull the plug and announce it to the whole wide world of this is what's happening and this is the results.
Well, we
But
don't have
I'm
long though.
no, we don't. We have until February.
Yeah.
So, and then it has to be done. So half of my catalog is through Draft to Digital and half of my catalog is direct. Because I was having problems with my direct books. When I would release, my pre-orders weren't releasing. To this day, I have pre-orders sitting there from 2019 that have never gone live. And nobody at Apple seems to know what's going on or how to fix it. And I have gone up the chain at Apple, and everybody's just like, we don't know. This is some weird glitch had just happening on your account, Erin. And I'm like, fuck you. So the first time I was like, okay, this is just a one-off glitch, whatever. I release another book, it goes great. I release another book, and the same glitch happens. And I was like, okay, done. I pulled all of my pre-orders. I put them through Draft Digital. I will not go through Apple Direct ever again for new books because my pre-orders, like, what's the point of building up all of these pre-orders just to have them just sit there on release day on your dashboard taunting you, right? Like, fuck you. So I was really mad. And I'm an Apple fangirl, right? Like
Yeah, me
everything I
too.
own, every device I own is Apple. My brother
Ditto.
fucking works for Apple. All right. And I'm like, fuck you, Apple.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I love it.
I
I'm
hate doing
exactly
that
the same.
so much.
Also,
Yes.
their like iTunes uploader is quite literally the worst thing I have ever had to experience in my entire life. But
The
also,
most
like,
janky piece of
oh
shit
my
ever. And
God.
it's not
And they
changed or gotten any better.
Well, now they're threatening it's not going to work anymore anyway. So I've had like a warning for the last year that you need to update your Java or it will stop working. But this is like, I'm waiting for, because I only just launched a book. So I had to wait before pulling everything
Mhm.
for all the pre-orders to go through. And so
Yep.
now I'm waiting for like a quiet day over Christmas where not many people are kind of shopping. And then because it takes about 24 hours. So they're going to disappear. And I know people are going to be like, where is the book? And I'm going to be like, it's coming, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And now all of your links are not working anymore. You're going to have
Right.
to redo all of your links on your website and your back matter. Yes, you're welcome. But together here, I'm giving you your to-do list.
Yeah, thanks.
And you're losing all of your reviews. Those fuckers don't come back. They will
Yeah.
not move them. And I have some books that have thousands of reviews, and that's why I've never moved them to go through draft to digital because I'm like, I don't want to lose thousands of reviews. Are you fucking with me? Because that really matters on Apple.
Yeah, it does. But I'm also not going to have my information public. You've got to be joking.
Yeah, yeah,
I will
exactly.
sacrifice the
Like,
reviews to keep my privacy.
mhm. Yes, yes.
So,
The whole
yeah.
thing is like, are you guys intentionally trying to like screw this over so badly that people just stop selling on Apple Books and you can just shut it down completely? Like, what is the plan here, peoples? Like,
Mm,
you are a company worth $1 trillion. You cannot tell me that you don't have money to run Apple fucking books. I
I know,
refuse
right?
to believe that. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's fine. Okay. What? So we're sort of coming towards like the end. I feel like we could talk for another 2 hours, but
Probably.
um, what do you wish you'd known? Like, if you could tell new authors who were going wide one thing, what would it be?
Go wide from the beginning. Um, Rather than one thing that I see a lot of people say is I'm going to build up my readership and then go wide. And what happens is that the readers aren't loyal and they're not moving with you wide. And so all you do is you build up your readership over here and then shut all of that down and start all over again. So just
Mm,
start the direction you're wanting to go. And if it's too scary to um, if you aren't wanting to do multiple platforms at the same time, if that seems overwhelming to you for some reason, then do draft to digital and do Amazon and just start there. Don't skip Google Play. You're not going to be able to get to Google Play through draft to digital. It's fine. You're probably not going to sell a lot on Google Play to begin with anyway. Get started there. And then once you are more comfortable, yes, you lose reviews if you move your listings from direct or to distributor and back again on Apple. You don't on Kobo and Barnes and Noble. So if you decide later on that you have the bandwidth and the desire to go direct to Kobo and Barnes and Noble, then you can make that move at that time. And it's not nearly as overwhelming as you think it is. So start wide if that's actually where you want to go. If you don't want to go wide, then fine, go into KU, whatever. But the one thing that I hear over and over and over again is new authors saying, well, I'm just going to build up my readership. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Those readers are not loyal. I don't know how else to make you understand the words coming out of my mouth. So anyway, yes. So start the way that you can tend to go.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The only other one that I would add is make a spreadsheet. That's the one thing I've struggled with is like version control and the date I last uploaded and the reason why I changed my upload. And over the years, I've expanded. So now I have like all the links in a spreadsheet, the
Mhm.
ISBN info, the pricing info in different countries, all of that kind of
Yep.
stuff so that you can make all your prices kind of match and stuff. But that spreadsheet is like, the best thing that I've ever done. along with the version control, because you do have to remember to load the file to all the different places. But yeah, I love
You
that. Start
do.
as you mean to go on.
You lose track after a while. And when I first started in the author world, I was like, how can you lose track? Like, what do you mean you lose track? Come on. What do you got? Dementia? Right? It's not that hard. But after a while, you're like, oh, oh, I see. I get it now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Well, this is the Rebel Author Podcast. So tell everyone about a time you unleashed your inner rebel.
Oh, well, it's a good story of my Idaho roots. I decided when I was a teenager that I was going to start riding bulls, because why not? And so I was at a farm, not farmers market, good Lord, local, what is the word I'm looking for? Anyway, fair and rodeo, good Lord. Anyway, I was there as a teenager, and I was riding, it wasn't even a bull, it was a steer. I was riding it, and I got thrown out and my foot was stuck in the stirrup, and the webbing along the side, and I got dragged around the arena, whacking up against the side of the steer and thinking I was going to die. It was good fun. So maybe don't ride steers without any training whatsoever. You're welcome.
That is great advice. We'll never do that.
Right? I am helpful. I'm so helpful. Great advice over here.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Would you like to tell everyone where they can find out more about you, your books, and anything else you want to add?
Oh, sure. If you go to erinwright.net, there is a link in the top bar, and I think it says authors. If you click on that, then you can see classes that I'm teaching. You can see my consultation calendar, so you can chat with me one-on-one if you would like. You can also sign up for my newsletter just for authors on my author page, so that I will send you an email when I'm announcing something. I don't send a whole lot of emails out to my author list, so I'm not going to be spamming you. But I've also started going to author conferences, and I do a lot of presentations and stuff at author conferences, and I'm going to book signings and things like that. So especially if you're in the US, I may see you soon-ish. I'm traveling with I have started this process of traveling and pulling my house behind me. I'm obviously not traveling right now. Sasha can see I'm in my office, but that is something that I will be doing in the upcoming months.
That's very, very cool. I always, that's a whole other story. I was gonna, in my heart, I'd love to be a nomad for a year or two, but I have a kid and it's not the right time. But anyway,
Right. Yeah.
thank you for all your time today. I really appreciate it. And of course, a giant thank you to all of the show's listeners and all of the show's patrons. If you would like to get early access to all of the episodes, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. I'm Sasha Black. You were listening to Erin Wright, and this was the Rebel Author Podcast. Next week, I'm joined by Jennifer Hilt, and we're talking all about using tropes in our fiction. Don't forget to tune in and subscribe on your podcatcher. And when you have a moment, please leave a review.